Hi guys, lycheepunnet here with wkim. We're going to do a much anticipated set review on To Love Ru Darkness Second, which we'll be affectionately referring to as the porn booster. So as I just mentioned, joining me is wkim. Hey,
Sup? This
yeah,
set is
this is
cancer.
yeah, it's pretty damn strong, and pretty honestly pretty linear. It's one of the
Yes.
most anticipated standalone releases, and I think it might be the strongest standalone release since Nisekoi, dare I say.
Yeah, I would
And
agree with that.
yeah, I think this is I don't say this lightly. I think this is actually going to warp the meta. I don't normally subscribe to hype. Like when Fate came out, I was like, yeah, it's pretty strong, but it's not going to warp the meta. When Girlfriend Beta 2 came out, everyone was like, oh, this is the strongest deck. I'm like, no, I think it's good, but it's not going to warp the meta.
One of the
This is going
things
to warp the meta.
one of the things for sure about those other sets versus this is like those sets all had like one or two like super powerful tools that existed before, where this is getting like three or four of them into one set, and it's like super silly.
Yeah, this set's really ridiculous, and I've got no doubt that it will be a formidable presence in every event from now on in. But
Until that
before we actually
emergency
go,
ban list in December.
I I would not be surprised at all actually, because yeah, it's breaking the rules of Weiss. It's
Yeah.
just it's kind of forcing enough damage. It's forcing damage through in the same way Marika is, except it's not susceptible to the way like to Kantai and DC and LB's anti-damage.
The way it was, Marco
Yeah.
was at least.
So before we get into it, the boosters segregated into three rather distinct builds. So I want to talk about those just briefly. The first build is the obvious meta build, which is Transformation Housework. It's Yami, Mikan, and Maya. It's basically the cancerous quote unquote anti-fun deck. When I say anti-fun, I don't actually mean anti-fun. I mean it follows the shell of all of the decks people call anti-fun. So it's got a level 0 that sets up for a level 1 that searches and pluses, following up with a level 3 that aims to just kill the opponent in one fell swoop and anti-damage as backup. That's what the Kantai collection, that's what Little Busters anti-fun did, and that's what this deck is going to do. But it's got a few other goodies that we'll discuss along the way.
Yes.
The second deck I think is
It's a more traditional meta deck. It's the
yeah,
Sisters Alien build. It's
yeah.
effectively mono red, but you can splash yellow for the anti damage counter.
I feel like it's probably just going to be mono red.
It's very tight on space because of how many level threes you need to run in that deck to make it
Yeah,
kind of
and
function.
yeah, and the fact that the best cards in the deck, which we'll get to, are actually somewhat reliant on the alien trait means that you can't just splash any yellow card. There aren't very many good alien yellow cards.
Yeah. Nothing that actually works in the context of the deck.
Yeah, that there are a couple that are okay, but
It's not generally going to be
yeah,
worth those slots.
no.
I say it's like
And
an
the
old school meta deck though because it's actually one of those decks that's very possible, not necessarily likely to be an 8 gate deck.
oh, I would run 8 gates and 4 stock soul. No, I mean 4 gates, four
8
stock
gates,
soul.
4 stocks. So this is the
It's,
secret to
yeah,
your winning.
the 12 climax deck. No, I would run. Well, my mineral water just fizzled and sprayed all over my desk. Give me a moment. Uh,
So which Stoxel are you talking about? The TD
TD,
Stoxel?
TD Snoxel.
That is a very fair thing. The TD
Yeah,
Stoxel is very good. You
I
can
agree.
also run, if you want, the 2-1 gate combo, which is also
Hmm.
a climax phase salvage. And it's a bit later, but sometimes that actually makes a difference, with salvage combos in particular. The
I
level
think
timing.
so because you have a greater pool to pull from, but I don't think it's going to be as good purely because the set has an Ursa clone, meaning that it's going to
Mill their deck
spray
very
its
quickly.
it's going to spray its cards into the graveyard, and you'd be better off just using level 1 combos.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things that go on for the deck
Yep.
that make it
And then the
very
last deck I
special.
think is actually as strong or even more strong than the
Alien
alien
deck.
build. I would think it's an animal plant build. I
Animal
say animal
Plant
plant.
that
I would
gives
say animal.
you
Hmm?
that
It
gives
gives
you
you
access to basically all the characters.
not really. It's going to be focused mostly around Haruna, Yui, and Nana.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like they don't really bring enough standalone. And
There
all their
are
other
a
cards are synergy
couple of
based.
MoMA things I think you can probably splash for, but that's
Not worth it. Most of it goes on the animal trait rather than plant trait.
this is true.
Um, yeah, the only reason that a lot of things are affected by plant trade at all is because I assumed that they were going to put some of the Rito main character cards in. He's got plant trait.
And he
but they
got
ended.
exactly 0 cards in this
You got
booster.
exactly 0 cards in the booster, some cards in the TD. I
One
guess
card
they
in the
just
CD. He got a vanilla.
Yeah, I guess they just ran out of room to put all of the nonsense, and they just couldn't fit Rito in.
Yeah.
Regardless, that's the tact we're going to take. So three different decks. We'll be discussing them as they come. They're quite segregated, so you'll know what we're talking about when we talk about them. But without further ado, I think we can probably just jump in.
Alrighty. So first up is the
Mhm.
first really
The
good card in the
Haymaker.
set, the
This is
Haymaker.
this is without a doubt the best card in the set. It's what enables most of the nonsense, and it's the set's only ridiculous finisher. Golden Darkness. It's a 3/2 8.5k. So just that alone is not very impressive, but when you read its abilities, it gets more and more ridiculous. So it's Transformation Taiyaki trait. All of Yami's cards are Transformation Taiyaki trait. Taiyaki is irrelevant. Transformation is relevant.
That's not true. When you're playing against Ash,
Yeah, that's right. Always got to keep King of Fighters in mind. That's fair. Like Taiyaki is entirely irrelevant unless you're fighting against King
King
of
of Fighters.
Fighters. Or if you're playing King of Fighters, in which case you now get to use Taiyaki as a trait, which with oh, and Persona as well. Persona, you can name any trait in the game. Anyway, if all of your characters have either transformation or housework, this becomes a 10k with hexproof. Now, there are actually 10, well, not 10k, but
There are a couple of cards with this
fairly,
profile,
yeah,
actually.
there are fairly vanilla hexproof level threes, and they have seen some success.
The most
Uh,
notable one that I can think of is Joseph from Terraformers.
I was thinking mostly of Toma, but yeah, Joseph is
Joseph
he's a
has this
heal.
exact profile, but he's a early play healer instead.
Yeah, this is a well, we'll get to all the things Yami has. Yeah, being untargetable is normally not that useful, unless you have a finisher attached to you. So, like a come and play finisher, basically. So normally, all of the hexproof cards at level three that saw play were just basically heals. So the Shinobu from Nisa Monogatari, the Joseph from Terraformers, and then the recent Toma from Combat Campaign, which by the way is pretty damn good, and Hibiki from Symphogear, which is also untargetable. There are probably a few others, but whatever. This card is notable because it has some other abilities. So it's come and play draw two, ditch one. That's nice. It lets you dig, which is important for the next ability. When this attacks, if the
Wind Trigger.
wind climax, yeah, the wind climax is in the climax zone, you pick one other character and this character, and they gain the ability Clash.
So functionally, every climax combo of Yami produces 3 potential instances of damage. Well, 2 minimum in the
Two,
sense
yeah,
that you get things in. At the most, you're producing 4 attacks in the sense that they can cancel all 4 attacks. So,
four attacks. What do you mean?
well, 3 attacks in the sense that like up to three
Yeah,
attack.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You add two extra damage to the pile, and it's
Yeah.
unlikely to be cancelled because it's only instances of one damage.
Yes. It's
Now, if
also
this
very
was just
stackable.
this effect was actually seen on a previous card. It's the Yamato Kai Ni, I think, from
Yes,
Kantai
from
2.
Content 2, where you have to
Um,
pay 2 on play to give a
yeah.
card shot trigger.
So it was basically a 3/4 that came in and gave two instances of extra damage. That was very playable. And this card, you'll notice that there's no stock cost at all. So basically, what this is it adds two instances of damage, which you might think, oh, that's not too bad. But when you add more than one Golden Darkness to the field, and heaven forbid, three, you're adding five extra instances of damage with the climax play
It is
at
only
no extra stock
5
cost.
because it's on attack you do this effect rather than on
Yep. So,
climax placement.
so you attack, you give it to yourself, and you give it to the Yami next to you. The next Yami gets two instances, and the third Yami also gets two instances. You can't get this full six without a restand of some sort, which doesn't exist in this set.
In before season 3.
No, thank you. This booster apparently used mostly season one pictures, so I could totally see an extra booster coming out.
Oh dear
I
God.
think the anime is still airing or something.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
So
Well,
this card is pretty heinous. It's just the combination of being hexproof and dealing all this additional damage. The primary way you dealt with this kind of effect was to like play Kantai or Little Buzzers with Capo and just anti-damage counter this character. But when you can just stack 2 shot triggers on a hexproof character, that's no longer a concern. Like they can't stop you from dealing damage.
exactly. So either you're going to do three plus, or you're going to do
2
two.
in instances of 1.
No, not really two, but yeah,
Two instances of one damage.
it's a little bit insane, just a little bit. And I honestly don't think that's fair. I think that having multiples like this card is okay if you only have one,
It's
but
really heinous at two, and
and three is just kind of ridiculous. And there's
three
so
is a bit of a diminishing return from two to three versus one to two,
not
but
really. You lose some value, but you get an entire extra ping, or
this
an
is true.
entire two. No, just you
You
get
get
one
one extra
extra
ping,
ping. Yeah,
which
well,
is
one
still
extra.
very worth it. Like to
You
be
get one
absolutely
extra
honest,
ping, but that last character could be anti-damaged, so you can think of it as like,
potentially getting three extra pings.
yeah, I guess so. So yeah, the reason this card as a climax combo finisher is so much better than the majority of climax combo finishers is that it digs for it. You
Yes.
draw two and drop one.
In addition, the set does have anti-damage, so this draw to ditch
Uh,
one is also
yeah,
very good for that. It's one of the ways of
it
getting
digs for that.
events, and
So
it was
yeah,
one of the reasons why Akagi Kai was so prominent in Kantai,
yeah.
was that
Not
it
only did
also
it
had
dig
the
for
draw
its
to
own
ditch one.
climax, it digs to your compasses as well, which was pretty insane.
So
So
this
like
has
you
a very
play,
similar thing going on.
yeah, you play this, you draw two ditch one. Oh, I found my wind climax. I'll play my second one, draw two ditch one. Oh, I found my anti-damage. How nice. I can guarantee you that's not going to be a rare scenario because this deck is just insane.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very heinous. This whole
now
combo is very unfair.
I think there's a problem with this basically. I can't see them limiting this in any way.
In any
They've made the
reasonable
deck
capacity.
yeah, they've made the deck so concentric around this having golden darkness that well basically just
If you don't have this card in the deck, it literally doesn't work. You just can't kill
yeah.
them. You don't have that ability.
Not only that, but it's the engine. It's the
Yeah.
resonance target for so many different things, which means that if they want to kill this deck, they literally have to kill this deck, which
I
they
could
can't.
see them potentially hitting the 1/0 to 3 change, but that doesn't actually kill the deck either.
That yeah, that's just an alternate game plan, or your main game plan, depending on how you build your deck. But I honestly see this as a terrible design choice because there's no way to effectively limit it.
Yeah.
It's a cash grab. That's what it is.
Yeah, this card is also ridiculously expensive. It's already up to 3,000 yen, and
Yeah, you need four of it in the deck, no exceptions.
yeah,
Because not only do you want to like not only do you want to draw it late game, but you want to draw it early game because it is your resonance target. You
it's
want to have it in
also
your hand so you can
a
advance summon it. You want to
does
yeah,
everything.
just it does literally everything in your deck, and having it in your hand is something you want.
So this card is really heinous.
Yeah,
Um,
it is the reason that this deck is even a thing. If this deck was like just a standard come and play Clash 1,
Even if this was just Musashi, it still wouldn't be as good as this
yeah,
effect.
yeah. Even if it was Musashi, it wouldn't be quite as scary. Like, sure, you're immune to anti-damage, but no, I take that back. Musashi is pretty scary. But if this was just a standard Clash, the deck would be pretty tame because it just doesn't have the end game to match a lot of the other anti-damage decks end games.
Yes. So next up is another one of those kind of level 3 engine cards. It's not nearly as upsetting. It's
Yeah,
Maya Kurosaki. She is come and play. Look at top X, where X is number of transformation or housework cards, and you get to
so
add a card
generally,
to your hand.
yeah, it will generally be a look at the top five because that's just how these cards work, and it means you can dig for the climax if you haven't already got it,
And if you don't have if you do have the climax, you can dig for the anti-damage counter instead.
or you
So
could dig for your next Yami and chain them.
yep, there are lots of options. It's a very flexible effect.
Yeah.
This is also an effective cantrip, so she doesn't minus to play. One of the things you'll notice is neither of these level 3s minus to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition, she just gets huge for no reason on attack. She gets 4,000 power, basically. So on your turn, she's at 13.5.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like
And
that.
yeah, it'll probably have encore. I think this card is serviceable, but
I think ultimately, because your level 3 slots are largely dominated by money counter and the Yami, that
oh, I wouldn't call the money counter a level three card. I would just call it an event.
it's fair. It's an event, but ultimately it's still taking up slots. In that
Yeah,
sense,
that's true.
you're very limited with the amount of space you have at level 3 for kind of a well curved out deck. In that sense,
Hmm.
I really think at level 3 you only have 2 to 3 open slots. I think this is
Yeah,
the card that goes there.
you play maybe one, then you play some heals because heals are still important.
Heals are relevant.
This card in a vacuum is pretty awful. Like it doesn't do anything. But when you factor into the account that it searches for your anti-damage, it searches for your, well, I say
Climaxes.
search, but I mean it digs.
It
It
digs for
digs for
your
your climax, it
climaxes.
digs for your anti-damage, and it digs for your other finishes. It becomes rather irritating. And while I don't even, I don't think this is really R quality in a vacuum, but in context, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, very good card.
Yeah,
You'll probably run it in some capacity in most decks, either 1 to 3, depending on how much you value healing.
yeah.
That's a personal preference, regardless.
It's not as if you're going to have trouble finding the army to begin with. It's
Yeah,
just
this
this
is
is it's a two soul beta that also serves as a removal
and
card and
digs.
yeah, and it digs.
So that's basically the level threes in yellow. There are actually very few level threes in yellow.
Yeah, there's only these two in the TD one. The TD one's a heal and it's changeable, but
You could run that if you want.
I don't think it's
But
as good
for
as
the
the
sake of like trait balancing too, because there is a 1/1 event that's relevant, you'd probably rather be running the green healer.
yeah, I guess that is true. It does give you more targets, not that you're short on targets to begin with.
True. Next
So
up
all
is
right,
a
let's
one of the first resonance cards. It's
so
a
it's Licking Candy Mayor. It's a 001K. It's a global 500 support, which is cool. Like this seems like a usable card. And then it has Resonance, 2 cost, reveal Golden Darkness in your hand, which is the level 3 Yami. At the start of your climax phase, pay the cost. If you do, look it up to 2 cards, choose one, add it to your hand, ditch the rest. It is a effectively a draw. Well, it's not a draw to ditch one, but it is a +1 from the top 2 cards of your deck.
yeah. It's actually like super fairly costed.
Yeah,
Apparently,
it's
resonance is
actually
alternative.
overcosted.
It's actually overcosted. Apparently, resonance is an alternative cost for tapping this.
I guess.
I guess. And the pay two is on cost with any plussing effect on back rows. Generally, it's pay two rest this to do something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So it's actually like fairly costed, quote unquote. The effect is very limited relative to other pay to rest versus search or salvage. But because this does look at the top 2 cards of your deck, it does mean that it digs for climaxes and wait events. Those are 2 things that you can get with this that the other cards can't grab.
More or less.
And finally, this card actually smoke screens to an extent. Your opponent will have less information because you don't reveal what you add to your hand.
That's true.
And that's relevant in a set with anti-damage. You want to keep your opponent
It's,
guessing.
it's relevant in literally every set.
It's relevant in every set, but it's particularly relevant when you have these very powerful counters. So it's a good card. You probably run a couple just on the basis that it's still a global support. That's never bad to have, and it has this.
Oh, I don't know if I'd run this in anything more than a couple. Like
I
you
wouldn't run
have,
more than 2.
there's a specific assist that I will almost definitely run 4 of because it mills 3. We'll come to that card.
Yes, that is the only.
Foreshadowing.
That is the only reason why you're running that card.
Yes, that is the only reason look. I would run the Love Live one, so why not run the one that's an assist
But better.
500 mil 3? Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, so the next card is a Sitting Mayor. So this is the first of a cycle where there was promo art of all the girls sitting. So they just took the art and slapped it on a card. It's 001K. When this dies, pay 1, clock this. So familiar cost. It's Katsuki Inazuma from Kantai.
it's on reverse.
When this becomes reversed, you may pay cost. If you do, check top 2, add 1, ditch the rest. So again, it's a +1 from the top 2 cards of your deck. I think this is a lot better than what we just talked about with the assist.
I do. I think this is a very good card. Again, being able to kind of smokescreen is relevant even at level 0. It's still a +1, and because you actually kind of need a couple of climaxes in hand by level 1, depending on your game plan, being able to again dig for them is always good.
Let's not forget that digging through your deck is actually thinning your deck as well.
Yeah.
So that's another good part of the plus.
So it's always effective. It's like
Yeah.
never gonna be a deficit,
You
basically.
you go for 2 cards instead of 1, which does add up if you count all of the other effects that you have in this deck.
My only concern for the card is that depending on your level 1 game plan, you are punching yourself a lot in the face to do things with this deck.
This deck is a YOLO deck, though. You're going to be punching yourself a lot, and like if your final barrage with Yami doesn't work out, you're actually kind of dead in the water. Like you have anti-damage once, and after that, your entire field dies. You probably don't have that much hand, and like this deck is very
It's very
one
ham.
shot, but it's very good at finishing the game because it has hexproof and because it's such a strong climax combo.
Yeah, it's also very easy to just like not
Yeah.
instantly die sometimes, depending on what your stock condition is. It's actually the deck is surprisingly stock light, actually, in my
I'd be
experience.
surprised if you spent very much stock at all of this deck. It's
Yeah,
printed to be stock light. Like there are very few
almost all the
costed
effects are like
abilities.
costed to be very light on stock.
I haven't even gotten my hands on the deck yet, and I assume that when I test, I'm going to have 8 to 10 stock going to level 3 every single time, unless I screwed up somewhere.
So next up is another one of the sitting cards. It's
Yep.
sitting
So,
Yami.
yep. So she's a 2K. She's got an ability up to twice a turn. When your other character with transformation or housework is placed from hand to stage, this gains 1K for the turn. How's this looking so far?
So far, so good.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's
Pretty reasonable beater card on your turn, as most yellow cards tend to be.
if we were talking about this and that was the only effect it had, I'm pretty sure we'd both say it was a pretty average card. But it's got another ability. It's got resonance, reveal golden darkness from your hand. So golden darkness,
Yami.
level 3 Yami. When the battle opponent of this is reversed, you may pay cost. If you do, choose another character, rest it, and move it to an empty slot in the back row. So this ability is amazing and underrated, and I'm going to talk about why it's amazing and underrated. This card first appeared in the Haruhi set, where it was on a 2K card that could not get any bigger. That was a pretty average card that didn't see very much play. Then it was printed in Persona, and well, I think I might have missed the printing somewhere, but Persona is the first place I saw it in the Persona 4 anime set, and that card is amazing. It's clean cut Yukiko 2/5. If you've got 3 or more stock, you get this effect. And it's been printed more recently in Kantai as well. But as for the actual effect itself, what it reads is get an extra attack for free. That's it. That's all it reads.
Yes, and actually, it's very fun because it's kind of abusable in with on reverse effects in general. So, for instance, with the aforementioned sitting Maya, you could theoretically punch yourself twice to look at 4 cards over 2 turns because she rested and she's in the back row. With
Mhm.
various bombs at level 0, you can again get a second bomb attempt if you didn't level up already and they don't have level 1s on the field. So there are a
For the
lot of
record, I don't think those applications are quite as widespread as people seem to think they are.
they're not as widespread, but ultimately that's an additional plus to hey, I also
Mm,
got an extra attacker.
yeah, it's great
That's
if you
number
like.
one benefit. You got an extra attacker. Number two, I may get a second plus.
Yeah, like as someone who's just played the Yukiko in every deck he's ever played in Persona, your opponent, if they're savvy, will rarely field more than one character. So you will rarely get the wombo combo of bombing an opponent and then saving that bomb with your Yukiko, unless you're playing specifically Suicide Adult deck. I think that this card is just really good because it acts as a pseudo runner. It saves a card that you would otherwise have lost.
Yes.
Because every card at level 0 is a sitting duck that's going to die. We have to regard them as such because you can't just assume your 3/5 is going to survive because every deck runs bombs. Your card's going to die. But with this card, you save a card, put it in the back row, and have an attacker for next turn, which is an effective +1.
Yes. That's always going to be the case. Sometimes that's actually one of the most things is they actually do only leave 1 or 2 attackers up, and
Mm.
you can just swing at an open spot and then still
Yeah.
push it to the back row, and
Yeah, like
that's enough of a plus.
imagine like swinging with a support like any support in this set, like one that mills 3, and then saving it, putting it in the back row so you can continue to have that wonderful assist 500 ability even after
Even when it
and
should have been
yeah,
dead.
like you're getting so much value out of it because you got to attack with it, but it didn't die because you saved it.
It's actually super relevant because the yellow and green side actually have a lack of strong level 0 beaters in the sense that they don't have very good high power cards. Not
Hmm.
super relevant in general, but that is something that comes up as one of the quote unquote weaknesses of the deck. This is a
I
way of getting
personally,
around that.
that's not a weakness.
It's not a
I
real
don't think that's
weakness.
a weakness.
This is not a real weakness, but this actually helps you get around that because it does mean that you can be very aggressive with your level 0 back rows, use them as attackers, and still keep them around.
I agree. Like I don't think having no good 4Ks or whatever is a
Matters.
weakness. Like there are lots of sets that make do without having good oversizes and are perfectly fine. But this card in particular is just a really good card.
Yeah, and resonance is like largely irrelevant here. You should have the
Oh,
Yami.
I think it's relevant. You might not draw it,
You might not
but
draw it, but if you run the drop search, you'll probably have it by turn 2, which is when the
yeah,
effect is the most relevant.
in like 80. Oh. I guess. In like 80, yeah, that's true, I guess. In like 80% of cases, you'll probably have it because you're running level 3 army at 4. You're going to draw 5, mulligan, up to like, I don't know, 2, 3
You're gonna
cards.
mulligan very hard for the Yami in most cases, I think.
I feel so as well.
So,
Especially if this is your main game plan.
and in addition to that, you still have 0/0 Drop Searcher, and this card is most relevant on turn 2.
Hmm.
It
Yep.
is less. It is not a card that you want to be playing on turn 1 most of the time, unless you have nothing else to play,
Hmm.
or you have only worse options to play. Because her effect is only relevant if you have another card to attack with.
Yeah, that's fair. Um,
Next up, the reason why this set is porn.set.
Own Feelings, Yami. It's a 217K. Not interesting yet. If all your characters are transformational housework, this becomes a 219K. Just,
Always.
that seems fair, right? And then Resonance, one cost, reveal a level 3 Yami from your hand. When this kills something, you may pay one and review and resonate. If you do,
Cool.
draw a card.
It's actually a very solid 2/1 card if you want to run 2/1 cards.
This card's an amazing 2-1
It's
card,
very, very
honestly
good.
speaking.
It's 2/9K is super large. You can give it hand encore. Again, that's
Mm.
we'll get to that. It's also technically free. There is a way to get it out for free, and we'll also get to that.
Yeah, no, you minus one, I'm pretty
You
sure.
minus one to hand because you have to discard, but you don't pay the stock. So it's trade offs given that you sometimes just want extra stock just for more money.
I guess that's fair. I think this card is one of the best level 2s we've seen in quite a while. It's comparable to the old Little Busters Komari, which is still one of the best level 2s of all time. And it's basically a 219K that will kill a level 1 and get some value.
Yep. It doesn't have that silly needs to reverse level 2 or higher, which
Yeah,
is huge.
yeah. Different times.
Different times.
Yeah. So next card is Rito Assassination Order Yami. I think this is the only time the word Rito appears in the set.
I'm sure it is.
So basically, this is part of a change cycle. One of the less normal change cycles that we've seen recently. It's
It's a 0 to
every
0
turn.
change.
Yeah, it's a level 0 change that changes to another level 0. Haha, transformation, I get it. But when this is placed from the waiting room to stage, so when it's changed into, you choose a character that gets 1.5. Okay. And the other character, which we should really talk about because it's right next to it.
It's gonna be right here
Yeah.
now. It's on screen.
Yeah, it's just the way we are, Yami. When this is changed into, so placed from waiting room to stage,
You
it
get
gains
soul.
one soul, so it becomes a 2 soul beater.
I don't particularly like the combo. I feel like the slot commitment's super heavy for
Not good enough. It's
rather
just not good enough.
uninteresting and weak effects, to be honest.
The effects aren't weak. The problem is that it eats up so
Deck
much
slots.
space.
Yeah.
Like you want at least 3/3 to consistently get it at level 0, which is presumably like this will take up a lot of your level 0 game if you run it at all, because you can't. Are you going to run 2K vanillas? Really? I don't think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It's
these
just
these
pretty
cards
unimpressive to me.
these cards scale up well in that they get better during the mid and late game than most level zeros would be. But by that same token, they're pretty terrible in the early game. So I'm not sure you really want to use up your space for this when there are just much better utility cards to run.
Yeah. I agree.
I mean, fine, it's cool for like a waifu deck or whatever if you like Yami or whatever. But I don't think it deserves a place in the meta build.
Nope. Next up is a card that isn't going to go into the meta build regardless
All right,
because she's
so
Alien Fire.
it's Kyoko Kurosaki. She's playable in the I guess she's yellow fixing for the red build if you want it.
Yeah.
She's a bit weird, but I can see some really disgusting stuff happening with this and the 1-0 Lala Artisan. What she does is when this is front attacked, you may pay 2 and clock yourself for 1. If you do, choose this card and another alien or plant character and return them to your hand.
Yep.
There are lots of really ridiculous effects you can pull off with this. The best one is what I just mentioned, 1-0 Lala. Other ones that are good would be the 1-0 Suicide Momo. I guess the 3-2 Momo that burns when it comes to play.
Oh, that's Nana.
But no, it's a Momo. Nana is the one that burns in reverse.
pretty sure it's the other way around, but we'll get to that later
No,
anyways.
I'm pretty sure that's how it is. Yeah, it's so basically you spend two to presumably save this card because it's pretty weak, and probably save another card and get value out of common play effects again. And then you can clock this for color fixing. So
Woo!
I think this card is
Win-win.
better than it looks, but it didn't look very good to begin with, and it doesn't fit into the primary yellow-green build.
Yeah, and you probably want like I don't feel like you need it in the mono red build either. So
Yeah.
it's
This
just
character's existence in the series just because the author is still hung up on Black Cat.
that's
Like she
basically
doesn't have.
Yami as a character,
Yeah, I'm really not sure why she. Yeah, that's true. But there
and
was a.
Tearchew is literally named the exact same as from Black Cat.
Is she? I don't remember enough about that
It's
series.
Professor Tearchew in Black Cat.
Fair enough. All
So
right, but yeah, this card is fine, I guess. It's going to be underrated a little, but it's
it's
really not.
acceptable.
Yeah, it's like okay.
Next up is a fairly stock 102K counter. It's
It's
2K
a
if you have a transformation housework character.
So this is actually notable because it's splashable. Like if you splash a certain 500 power assist into other builds, you can just play this as well. It's basically a 2k counter, and it's good for this build because there are some things you want to be countering at level 1.
That you want to be keeping around forever and ever.
Yeah, because this isn't even the only way that's going to happen. We'll get to that in the very next card, actually. But a 2k counter with 102k counter with basically no conditions attached is pretty good.
Yep.
What can I say? Next card, Memory Connecting to the Future Yami. It's a 1135 support. The first thing it's got is an assist effect. All of your characters with transformation or housework in front of this gain 500 power and character encore. That's really relevant because the 3/2 Yami can be advanced summoned. We'll get to how later. And keeping that in the field via hand encore is just a really strong, really, really strong
Yeah, in
ability.
general, like frontal hand cards is a powerful effect.
And the second ability is when Taiyaki shaped key holder is placed to your climax zone, choose a character. That character gains 2k for a turn. Keep this ability in mind. We'll get to it later, but it's actually a lot better than it seems.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
normally speaking, like a card that's a 1/1 mediocre assist with a plussing power climax combo, that's the sort of thing I just kind of wave my hand at and tell to go away. But in the context of this set, that otherwise mediocre card is actually a really good, like it's a glue card that can really hold the deck together if it's played down appropriately.
Yep. Next up is another Maya. She's in the bath because this set is
Uh,
porn.
this deck this. Okay, so this is the foremost example of what I would consider power creep. They've gone out their way to ensure that it's not actually power creep because it might just be a 1/6k, but in reality, it's basically always going to be a 7/5 that can't be bombed. Its ability is if you have three or more other characters with transformation or housework, this gets 1.5k and can't be reversed by auto effects. If you have a full field, then this is a 7/5 that can't be bombed, and that's not hard to do with this set.
Yeah, and with this in particular, it's most likely going to be sitting at like 8,500 power with hand on core.
If it's in the center,
Yeah,
yes.
if it's in this, oh, you have a global.
Yeah, but who's going to be playing that over the assist 500?
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, basically.
yeah. It's still a very solid card. You probably don't run it. This deck is like actually super tight on space because there are so many good cards that you want to put into it. And while this card is good, it's actually not good enough.
Yeah, that's a really depressing prospect. Um, yeah,
It
no, I
must be
just
terrifying to be hearing these words over and over and over.
there's a 7/5 clock encore in like a conditionless clock encore in Attack on Titan. I was like, wow, this is kind of ridiculous. And this card is like the same thing. And the funny thing is, I don't think the deck even wants to run this.
No,
It's not good enough.
it's not good enough.
A 7/5 unbombable is not good enough.
Sad days.
All right, so
What does
this
the
is
future become?
so next card is 2/2 Weapon Born to Fight Mayor. It's an 8k. That doesn't bode well, but it's got some other abilities that are pretty interesting. If Golden Darkness is in your clock, this gets -1 level in your hand. So it's one of those newfangled level 2 advanced summons that started with Fate's Day Night, continued in Shining Resonance, and is now here.
UBW.
And if you, yeah, and now if you have three or more other characters with transformation or housework, this gains Encore.
That effect is fairly redundant, but
I
sure.
think this card sucks because it means you have to clock Golden Darkness to get it off reliably, and I'd
Yeah,
rather have it in
basically.
my hand. Yeah,
Yeah, that's all there really is to say. It's just it's this is not better than Yami, and
no,
we'll okay, we'll get to that now, huh?
yeah.
Soon, soon.
Soon. TM. Tieju, Tieju Lunatique? Yeah,
Yeah,
Lunatique.
it's as a cost bond. It's a pay one bond to the level three Yami.
This would normally be pretty good, but I think it sucks because it's not
It's
transformational housework
it's
trait.
off trait, and that's like the
Yeah,
most terrible thing that could happen for this
yeah.
kind of card.
Like if you're low in hand and you draw this late game, it turns off your Yamis, and that's not good.
Yep.
Like it's rare that I say a bond is not worth playing, but I don't think this one is.
Yeah. If it was on trait, it would probably go into every deck, but being off trait makes it too
Oh,
awkward.
if it was on trade, it'd be in literally every yellow
Every
green
Yami
deck,
deck. It's a
but
s-
it isn't.
it isn't. The problem is the level three Yami relies so heavily on having that full field of on
Mm,
trait. It's just not. This card can just ruin your day.
more or less.
Next
Okay,
up
so
is her
next
again.
card is it's her again. So Tieju, she's a 002K. When it's placed from hand to stage, becomes a 3/5 for a turn. And when this is placed from hand to stage, pay one, clock yourself. This sounds familiar. If so, you search your library for up to one Ryoko Mikado, which is a 2185 vanilla. With I think she's got alien trait and science or something.
I think she's alien science. Yeah,
No, alien and infirmary because she's
wonderful.
the
She's a
nurse.
nurse.
Yeah, so
Woo!
bad because Ash gets an extra. Yeah, yeah, it's a one cost clock yourself to search for a 2185 that you probably don't care too much about.
Yeah, this card is bad.
It's it's okay in a vacuum. It's just that you have so many better choices that there's no reason to run an off trait pseudo like pseudo advantage. It's meh.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so next card is Ren Elise Juria. I don't know why they put him in. Oh, I guess I do know why.
It's because he transforms. That's
Yeah, his transformation trait, which is nice for Yami, but I
you
don't
still
think
don't run
he's.
this.
Yeah, no, because his synergies are with cards that take up way too much room. So his ability is one cost to discard a card from hand. When this goes from stage to waiting room, so when it, well,
Dies.
at the encore phase when it dies, you can pay cost. If you do, choose a Rune Elise Juria and return it to your hand. I think that card is like a 2195 or something.
Yeah,
And
she's
then you
huge.
choose a blue Metallia rune in your waiting room and put it rested where this was. And that card is a 5/5 clock encore.
Yeah, it's a 2195 with -1 level on stage.
Yes. And the blue Metallia rune is, as I said, a 1055,
Yeah, with
which
clock
is
encore.
fine.
So she's a
Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
No, it's just not very impressive. Not worth the slots.
It's fine. It's just not worth the slots. That's all.
Next up is a vanilla because they need more fog.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah.
and the most
Yeah.
frustrating thing that you'll probably encounter playing against this deck.
Yeah, this card's a bit of a gamble, but it's a very good one because, well, you'll see. Calm and Cool Yami. If you are level 2 or higher, this gains the ability drop a card from hand and put this in the waiting room at any point during your main phase to start up. Choose one of your own feelings Yami. That's the 2/1 9K that
That
you have pay
resonates.
1 resonate to draw in reverse and put it on in the slot this was in. So basically, you discard a card, sack this, and put the 2/1 onto the field, which is
Good.
nice, I guess, but the real kicker is the next bit. She's got a second transformation ability. Pay one, put a climax card from your hand into the clock, and put this into your clock. So you take 2 damage. So what do you get out of this 2 damage and 1 cost? That's a pretty steep cost.
Yeah, you just
What do
punch
we,
yourself twice.
yeah, what do we get out of this that's so worth it?
Well, Lychee, you get the level 3 Yami from your hand onto the field.
Yep, so we get the level 3 in play at level 1. So if any of you have ever played against Rewrite, or if you're really, really old and played against Persona, you'll know
Psychopath has
that.
it.
Yeah, but Psychopass isn't relevant. Persona at least was relevant, and Rewrite dominated everything for a while.
Yep.
This basically pulls like a massive 3/2, effectively unkillable character onto the stage, and it stays there. It's unbounceable, it's unbounceable by Rewrite. It's unchanged. You can't use anti-change counters against it because it's
If you
untargetable.
kill it, it has hand encore.
Yeah, because you have the 1/1 support from before. It's just insane. And the dumb part is you don't even go that much minus because it comes into play, draw two, drop one, and you only go minus one.
Um, Technically two, I guess, because you
No, it's only
played
minus one.
this and the climax
Yeah, but
and
you
the
end up
Yamis
with
from
a
hand.
3-2. You end up with a 3-2, so
Yeah,
it's
this is
plus
true.
one. So it's minus one all
Yeah,
up.
-1 overall. And the 3-2 is just nice because, two soul beater at level 1 is pretty frustrating.
It's also 10k, which is actually quite big. Like, we don't associate 10k 3-2s with the
As
word
big,
big
but
usually, but
at level 1.
it's at level one. Think of it as like a one, what is it? Like a 1-1 punch yourself. Uh,
Punch yourself
I,
twice.
yeah, I'm not gonna do like I'm not gonna make stupid analogies, but it comes out level one, meaning 10k is still very big and very relevant, and it puts cards like the I Must movie Mickey to shame because now here's the thing: you don't actually have to use the climax combo early. Like I would be perfectly happy clocking the bounce climax in order to pull this out and just have
Yes,
a two soul beta. Because
I'm
if you've
okay.
ever played against Rewrite, you know that just having the two soul beta is ridiculous. It's massive. It can't be the main way that people dealt with Rewrite back then was either by playing bounce climaxes in their own Rewrite decks or playing Wing Slayer. And while Wing Slayer will bring Yami down to a manageable level, she'll only be like 7k or whatever.
I think, does it
She'll
kill the
have
back
Hand
row?
Encore. Sorry?
I don't know if it kills the back row, actually.
The back row's 3-5, so no.
Oh my god.
I know. I checked that. I actually checked that when I saw the card, and that's why I know it offhand. And it
Oh,
made me
no.
unhappy. Yeah, it should be a 2-5. Those abilities should
Uh,
have 2-5 power attached to them. But yeah,
uh,
this puts a huge two soul beater that you're basically never going to get rid of. It's a good main plan. It's a good backup plan because you do have other level one plans, and it's just very
it's very
frustrating.
silly.
The only downside to it is you're taking two damage in addition to possibly clocking yourself for the turn to get rid of them. Actual minus one. So you're
Yeah.
taking a lot of damage, and that can be punished by a lot of sets that rush you down at level one. But I think the rewards are worth it because Rewrite didn't dominate without a reason. And
Yeah.
Rewrite was weaker to a lot more things than Yami is.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. It actually also lets you, and this is a fringe case, very, very fringe case, but it actually lets you get out of very awkward hand color situations where the majority of your hand might be green, but you have the gold bar in your hand and you just hit level 1.
Yeah, you can.
You
It is
can,
notable that this card technically filters because you are getting rid of a climax in your hand.
and it does create a fringe scenario where you can actually, even if they level lock you at 0, 0, 6 or something, right? You get the 0, 6 and you just clock once
I feel like
with
most of the
yellow.
cards you want to play at level one would include the bar anyway. But yeah, I think you're right because this is a command clock that can
It's
give
a
you
very
great.
fringe scenario, but
Yeah,
it can come up and it can be relevant, especially if you have more than one of the gold bar in your hand, anyways.
that'd be a pretty depressing scenario, but because then you'd just be rushed by any competent opponent.
Exactly, but
But yeah, it can come up, and I feel it's worth mentioning.
yeah, fringe
Yeah.
scenarios just to get extra color onto the field and extra cards to play. Very
Yep.
fringe, but it happens.
Next card, Beach Resort in a Southern Country Mayor. She's a 105k Resonance. Reveal Golden Darkness from your hand. At the start of your climax phase, you may pay cost. If so, this gets 4,000 power.
And loses a soul.
Oh, you had to spoil everything there, didn't you? Yeah, so
I
this
felt
is
like we
a
put enough dramatic tension there.
yeah, that's fair enough. This is effectively a 9k beta with no soul. So either you have to play a climax or pray to trigger to get anything out of this resonance ability. The stupid thing is, this doesn't even do anything against the level one advanced summons of note, which would be what we just talked about.
Yeah.
9k does not beat 10k with supports.
And
Like
9K doesn't even beat most wall decks with backups, so
exactly. Like I don't think this card is worth playing at all simply because 9k isn't big enough. The minus one soul's like whatever, you can play climax or something. But this can't even function as a cleaner because 9k doesn't do enough to like the decks that care about their field being killed are bigger than this.
and the decks
That's
that
all.
don't just don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. You could probably have killed them with the 5k Mayor. You didn't have to use the resonance.
So, not a very good card.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Vanilla.
Yay. All
Yay.
right. Next card is Blue Metalia Rune. 1055. When it's placed from hand to stage, reveal the top card of your library. If it's not alien or transformation, that's a strange trait combination, but whatever, we'll run with it. Run.
Uh, Shoot yourself.
Yeah, I would if I could. We don't have guns here. Uh, and it's got clock on call. So it's a 5/5 clock on call with a top check. Oh, I forgot to even say what it was. If it wasn't alien or transformation,
Dies at
then
encore step.
yeah, it dies on the encore step. So you still get your attack, it just dies, but then you probably just clock encore it, so whatever.
If you do use the 0/0 to level 1 change, it does get around this completely.
Yes, it does get around that completely, but a 5/5 clock encore, as evidenced by Log Horizon, isn't really that special.
It's a bit too small to be.
Yeah, like clock encores, costless clock encores either have to be kind of big or they have to be small and only fill a role where you just want field presence and nothing else.
Yeah. And
I
again,
guess this does the latter okay, but I still don't think it's worth
you have
running.
enough cards in this deck that are
Yeah,
good that you don't need to run this.
yeah, they've choreographed a deck for you, and this card does not go into that deck, sadly.
Ideally, it goes into like a split deck, I guess, if you wanted to
That,
do red yellow like some
yeah, like
masochistic
this
human
is.
being, but
I don't think this like that deck has way too many level ones to think about without coming to a 1/0 5/5 clock encore.
yeah. So that's that. Next
All
up
right,
is a 2/1 vanilla counter. You actually
Okie
could
dokie,
consider
bath time.
you actually could consider
Yeah,
running this if you want to again 1 to 3 change. Can keep this around a little bit extra longer because 2/1 counters are still good. You don't need
seems
it
about
though.
right. hmm Um, I think this is probably the best 2/1 counter in the set because, well, it's 3K, which is bigger than
Every
most
other
2/1
counter in the
counters.
set.
Well, there's the promo Haruna, which is in a wrong color, and the anti-change counter in this set does not sacrifice a character, so I don't think its utility is anywhere near good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
also
it does have anti-change, it's just really mediocre.
we can get to that as well at some point.
Yes, yeah, it'll be in the next video, I feel.
Yeah.
Thoughts Master taught me, Mayor. So it's a 2/1 8K. When Warmtown Cyanide is placed in the climax zone, this is in the front row, look at your opponent's hand and choose one of your characters with transformation or housework, and that character gains 3K and 1 soul for the turn.
This effect is super funny.
It's very flavorful. I like that they've gone to pains to try and put flavor into this set, but then they've tied up Maya in the whole housework
Deck.
archetype when she has like nothing to do with Mikan in
Absolutely
the
nothing. She has a
well
lot to do
Yami.
with Yami, but nothing
Yeah.
to do with Mikan. She has more to do with Momo or Nana than
Yeah, but the yeah, she doesn't interact with animal at all, which is just
very
bad.
strange.
Yeah, it should really be transformation and or
Animal.
animal. But anyway, if this is in the front row, look, yeah, so it looks at the opponent's hand, which is a nice ability. It mirrors her telepathic abilities or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you choose a character against power and soul. So Wormtown Cyanide is the shot climax, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is the shot climax.
And because of that, you'll be giving one character 2 soul with the climax play. I'm not so hot on that.
I'm not a fan of this card either. I feel like if
Yeah.
you're gonna run a 2/1 anyways, there's a better 2/1 in the set,
There's the 9K Yami
and it
in
doesn't
this
require a
intro.
climax to do things.
It actually pluses and it doesn't soul rush, but whatever, man. You can play climax if you want to soul rush.
Yeah, I mean you're basically just running 1K1s in this deck anyways, so
Pretty much.
pushing soul is not going to be a huge concern for this deck most of the time.
Yep, excuse me for a moment, gotta take a call.
So, moving on while my co-host is incapacitated, we got the 2/1 vanilla that gets searched by the 0/0 Tirju. Please don't run this. It's just not worth it. Next up is the 2/1 run that is gotten by the 0/0 Ren. It can be salvaged. If you want to run the combo, you're running this card too. I don't think it's worth the slots, however. And this card I'd like to wait for my co-host to
I'm
get back
back.
to. Oh, he's already back.
Yeah.
We got to the
Well,
1/1 event because the next two cards were very dull.
one of them was the rune that gets back, the
Yes.
rune that's gotten back, and that was like very mediocre. It's still a serviceable 2/1 because not that many decks actually have level 1 bombs aside from Nisekoi.
Well, this
Um,
set,
but that would
Kantai,
imply, yeah, well, Kantai doesn't run them really, but that would imply that, oh, girlfriend has it too. That would,
Terraformers also has it.
that is true, but how often does Terraformers run it?
It's splashable.
Well, fair enough. But I don't think that card is very good because it takes up too much space.
Yes.
All right, so Calming Warmth is a 1/1. Search your library for one transformation and one housework character. Reveal them, put in your hand, shuffle your library, and then discard a card. So one cost filter. Yeah, it's cool, right? Because it pulls out the 3/2 Yami that's your resonance target.
And your 1/0 plus in combo.
Pretty much. And your 1/0 fatty and your
And your
bland
and your
assist
500
500 for
frontal
3.
assist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does a lot of things that I think are good. Like you don't have very much to use the stock on anyway because the majority of the yellow green deck is stock free.
Costless.
Yeah, costless. So you can afford to use this. It doesn't even clock you like one of the other events in this set
This
does.
event is very, very good. I'm gonna like.
I think I'd only run one if that. I don't think there's enough room.
I managed to fit two in, but
I'm sure you can manage to. I just don't know how worthwhile it is.
yeah, but it's actually a very good event. Um, yeah,
Mm.
very acceptable event.
Yeah,
Not a
no
four
doubt.
of, but you should probably have one at least in your deck if you're running yellow green, just because the hand filtering is very invaluable.
Depends how many level zeros you want. If you cut the level zeros, I could totally see playing two of this, but that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah. Next up, we
It's the
were talking about
anti-damage,
it.
eh?
Yep, it's
Darkness
anti-damage.
plan. So Darkness plan, instead of a 2/3 counter like Horror Horror and Farewell Yukichi, this is a 3/3. So it has the anti-damage clause. Choose one character in battle, usually your opponent's, and this character gains the following ability for the turn. This card cannot deal damage to players. So unless you're extraordinarily strange and want to, is there even? Oh no, you can. You can use it in Milky to have your own Sharo not do damage to your opponents on their turn.
Yes, the effect that you could have just not paid for.
Anyway, we're talking stupid things. This is an anti-damage event that also has choose one of your characters. That character gains 1/5 for the turn tacked onto it to
Um,
justify the fact it's level 3.
yeah, it's good.
It's good. Yeah, I'd run what, 3, I guess.
I'm trying four at the moment, but I'm probably gonna switch it
I
to
don't think
three.
you need 4. You can probably run 2 if you really wanted, given how much draw there is in this set.
I'm probably gonna switch it to three.
Yeah,
That's
I think so. The card is
that's
just, it's a great draw late game. It doesn't matter that's level 3 instead of level 2 because level 3 is when you want to use it anyway. And this is most notable as a backup after your Yami has failed to kill your opponent, which means that you're a level 3 anyway.
exactly. Or you somehow manage to change all three into play and not be level three.
That'd be taking 6 damage and you'd have no hand. So I don't know how you'd. No, no. Let's not think about that too much.
That's basically all of yellow. That's all the transformation cards. So that pushes it straight into that 500 assist,
Oh boy,
I
it's
believe.
got it's a 0/0/500 with assist 500, and when this is placed from hand to the stage, you may put the top 3 cards of your library in your waiting room. So
Woo!
this was a very serviceable card in Love Live. Like a lot of people ran the Green Ellie because it just milled 3, and deck thinning is a really strong ability that I feel a lot of sets don't have, and a lot of sets need to value more. Just the fact that you mill a lot is really good. Like the Index Comeback campaign has a Toma Index that mills 2. That card is really amazing because you go through your deck really fast and you get to your more compressed state a lot faster. But I'm confused. Why is this card double R?
Well, it has this third effect
What third
where
effect?
if anyone salvages during the attack phase, that they lose. Oh wait.
All of their characters lose -3 soul for the turn.
Yeah. So
Or
if
they
they
lose
trigger a
3
gate,
soul
they either salvage or they deal no
and lose the.
damage.
No, they either don't salvage or they deal no
Oh
damage.
yeah, that's true. Sorry, they don't
So
salvage or they deal no damage.
this is the famously popular Hatsukaze effect that a lot of Japan seem to love enough to eschew with one of the best clock kicks in the game and one of the best anti-heal engines in the game for. And I don't blame them. This ability shuts off a lot of gate decks because this deck is this game is all about punching your opponent and keeping tempo up and always having cards to hit your opponent with. The ultimate goal of the game is to punch your opponent to level 4. And this can totally blank your opponent's turn if they trigger poorly or if their entire advantage engine was based on uh, attack phase salvage.
Yeah.
So the main decks that would get punched in the face by this would probably just be Idolmaster, Rewrite to some degree.
Ironically, red, red 2 lover, depending on what combos they're running, can get hit by this pretty hard. It
Oh
also
well,
cannot get
I
hit
think you can
because they also.
totally yeah, you can totally ignore it if it wants. Yeah, so basically, this is a one-sided effect that, even though it says when Eva plays characters returned, you're not going to run any attack phase salvage. So even though this is a fair and balanced symmetrical effect, because symmetrical effects are always fair, it's not a fair and balanced symmetrical effect because it's not symmetrical. Your opponent is going to be affected by it, while you definitely aren't.
Yeah, this effect is actually famous for killing the 8 gate meta in Japan. So,
Yes, the 8 gate meta definitely. I think gates are still run because there's no real other climaxes for some decks to run.
but the
But
the 8 gate meta is effectively dead by the original
yeah,
Hatsukase printing.
yes.
So,
And Hatsukaze isn't even the strongest anti-salvage. So just anti-salvage in general is just a really powerful ability that preys on people who crutch too much on gates. And it was very targeted printing, which is why Bushiroad has done it again. I just
yep.
thank I just thank God they haven't printed the other strong anti-salvage ability.
Oh God.
Yeah, imagine if that was on this card. I don't want to imagine that actually.
Yeah, just stop before you like.
Yeah, stop before I jinx something. So the next card is Mikan Yuki, 3/2/9/5. For each of your other transformational housework characters, this gains 500 power, and when this is placed on stage or via change to stage, you may put the top card of your clock in the waiting room. This is literally Electron Diva Miku.
It's a very vanilla 11/5 healer, which is fine.
It's fine. I don't see very much. I see maybe one in the deck because it's a heal. That's about it.
Wait, so to my knowledge, based on other people's translations, this Ransol trait is Kid's Backpack?
It's Randoseru, which refers to the iconic, like pseudo mailbox shaped backpack that elementary schoolers in Japan wear. I learned this from watching Doraemon or something.
Fun. By the way, that does mean that if you think this character's attractive, you're going to jail.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone who thinks this is best girl and wants to do lewd things with her, you're going to jail. They're keeping an eye on you. Just because she's voiced by Kana Hanazawa. I call her Kanahana so much I forget which one's her actual name. But just because she's voiced by Kanahana does not make her best girl. Public service announcement.
Yes. However, she is the only character with 2 double R's in this entire set, so she does have that going for her.
Well, she's popular because the entirety of Japan likes little girls.
Jail. I would rather avoid
Yes,
jail.
jail. Yui Kotagawa, objective best girl, 3/2/10K. When this is placed from hand to stage, search your library for a character with either animal or plant, reveal it, and put it in your hand, shuffle your library. So this is obviously focused towards the animal plant deck, as you can see. It's also got the other ability, which was first printed on Poolside Saturn back in Railgun 2. One cost, when this is placed from hand to stage, you can give this 1k power, and your opponent cannot play events from hand until the opponent's next turn.
Functionally, this is that deck's way of getting around anti-damage,
Yeah,
anti-heal, big event
anti-heal.
counters, or sorry,
Well,
heal counters, heal punches, which is
it stops Psyker's Wish and it stops Healing Magic, both of which I think are quite
it
relevant.
also stops main phase healing spells on their turn as well because
It
they
does,
can't
yeah.
cast those either.
So it stops Xylophone, it stops Pendants from getting back cards that they want.
It actually creates a very awkward situation for Nisekoi, for instance, if you're a level 3 first and then you hit them to level 3, but they only have 1 pendant in memory.
Yeah, yeah, basically. I still don't think that's a reason to run this as a Nisekoi foil because it's not a Nisekoi foil. I just
Nope.
think it's a nice ability tacked on to Best Girl's level 3, and she's Best Girl, so you have to run her. This
Uh,
card is very average, objectively speaking,
yeah,
but
it's acceptable. It's not groundbreaking.
my SP's on the way.
I'm sure it is. It's actually like one of the interesting trends for this set is that except for the Yami, all the level 3s are pretty underwhelming.
I don't know. A lot of them are just incredibly serviceable.
But nothing you would expect from like a new set, right? Like none of these
Yeah,
level
like
threes
like
are
a vanilla assist is pretty bad, right?
vanilla assist. Yeah, but I mean like none of these level 3s are like particularly impressive. Like vanilla healers, there's 2 of those basically.
You can look at that. You can look at this in two ways. Either that's a good thing because that means most of the money cards are lower rarities, or it's a bad thing because failing to pull the money double R's is just
Exceptionally
depressing.
nasty.
Yeah, it's terrible. Imagine if you got like four boxes and you pulled no Yamis and no level zero Mikans. Just think about that.
Yeah, the level 0 Mekon, by the way, is 1,800 yen, and the level 3 Yami is
Has it
3,000.
gone up? Yeah, 2980, right?
So if you actually just pull one of each, that's already paid for 5,000 yen of your 6,500 yen
Yeah, that's
box.
like most of your box already. And if you get the foil of either, oh, if you get the foil, if you get the signed Yami, then all the
You
more
paid
power
for
to
half your
you.
case.
Those things are going for like 40K on Yahoo auctions or something stupid like that.
So next up, moving to the
Yui, sitting.
rares.
So, yep. So Yui is,
Oh yes, this card is
if
actually
you've
very good.
one or few other characters, then this card, then
No,
all
all
all your
characters.
other characters gain 1/5, so it can be a sort of support. And when this is reversed, if the level of your battle opponent is 0 or lower, you may put the top card in your opponent's clock in the waiting room, and if so, put that character in clock. So you swap their top card clock with the level 0 that you just killed,
Very good effect.
or level 0 that just killed you. Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
There are
The
no
assist.
traditional bombs in this set, so if you want to run a level 0 bomb, this is your actual only option.
Well, the yellow green deck won't because this is neither transformation nor housework.
I am splashing it just to see, and it
Nah,
hasn't
not
come up as
worth.
an issue, but I also
I don't
haven't
think
played
it's
very
worth it.
many games yet.
I do not think it's worth it because
It is on the chopping block though, as I'm currently
yeah,
lacking the TD searchers.
there's a much better UE that you can splash anyway.
But yeah, very solid card though.
Yep. All right. Cute pajamas, Mikan. Zero. This is one of the best cards in the set, if you ask me.
Yeah,
So it's a 0015. When it comes to stage from hand, you may discard a card and then choose a character in your clock with transformation or housework. So basically getting the level 3 Yami whenever it gets hit to clock.
or anything else.
Yes. Add it to your hand and put the top card to clock. So not only does this add your desired card to hand,
It
it also
filters.
filters and it digs one card deeper in your deck. But that's not it. We've still got a brainstorm effect on it. It's one cost to rest two characters. For every climax revealed in the top four, search your library for one character with transformation or housework. Standard plussing brainstorm, because this deck totally needed it.
Yep, totally needed it. That first effect is actually like hilariously undercosted. This regular clock swapping effect has historically been a pay one, ditch one,
Not.
but it grabs anything from clock versus grabbing only a character here.
I don't know about undercosted because this is only one time, but it's really good. Like it's incredibly powerful.
One of the things is like a lot of decks are like, well, that's my combo piece in my clock.
Mm.
Dang. And then this card is like, that's a combo piece in my clock. So much.
Yay!
Yay! I made it happen.
Yeah, pretty much. This turns your clock into a resource, which is good because you don't really have the luxury of the discard pile's resource with this particular deck.
Yeah, so if it's not in your clock or in your deck, you can't get it at all in this deck.
Mm. Yep.
So that's where you want cards to be most of the time. Being able to swap, in particular, you'll run into situations where like you have a couple of low number of cards in your deck, and they end up in clock. Now they're very easy to get.
This is also forgiving for people who don't quite know how to clock the right thing yet, because you can always get the card back. I don't want to think of that as an upside, but it is an objective upside, honestly.
Yeah, it's just super silly, especially when you compare it to the red double rare.
Yep. The red double rare is pretty good, though. Like, I think it's probably better than this card in most decks.
In an objective sense, yes. In the fact that it's just this
Well, the
deck
fact
is
that this is the
heinous.
meta deck means that, yeah, this card's better.
This card is
So,
hilarious, though.
next card, Naked Weiss Schwarz, Yui. When this is placed from hand to stage, put the top X cards of your library in the waiting room. X is the number of your characters with animal and or plant. So Yui has a milling trait, I mean a milling theme going on. She's got this, she's got a an event with that ability.
Yep.
You go through your deck really fast, and that's fine. Like the animal plant deck will have animal trait brainstormers to use that as a resource.
It's also very amusing though because this at the same time this the animal plant deck will not be taking refresh damage.
Yeah, they will not because there are abilities to mitigate that. So this works as a sort of free brainstorm in the mid game, and it's also a sort of buffer because it has another ability. When it attacks, choose another character. That character gains 1k and 1 level, which is not inconsiderable. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah. In particular though, filling the grave is better for this particular deck because the only plussing brainstorm is a salvaging one.
No, no, no. They have a draw brainstorm,
Do they have a
but
draw
it's bad.
brainstorm?
They do. It's a draw brainstorm that also gives 500 to everything on the opponent's turn.
Awful.
Yeah, it's not. It's fine, but it's not good. Like
It's not good.
you don't
You'd
want to
rather run
run it.
the salvage brainstormer.
You definitely rather run the salvage brainstormer.
So
So
pretty
next
acceptable
card.
card. You're gonna run it
Yep.
in that build.
Yeah, definitely. So next card, Feeling in Love, Yui. One cost for the top card. This is the third card with this cost we've come across.
Yes.
When this is placed from hand to stage, when this is placed
It's
from
a
stage to waiting room,
yes.
you may pay cost. If you do, choose a card in your clock, add it to your hand, and put the top card of your library in your clock.
It's a copy from Madoka.
I thought the Medical one was on play.
No. Yes, the Madoka one is on play.
Yeah, so it's similar.
It's similar to
Similar,
Madoka.
but not quite.
Not
Yeah,
quite.
this is a very hard card to judge because the timing is just weird, and if your opponent double triggers, you don't cancel, or if you do cancel, it's not good for you
It gets
because you
super
either have
awkward.
you either have no options to choose from, or you'll have very few options depending on if you don't cancel or if you do.
You also
But
can't
anywhere,
use this card at 0-6. Ever.
no, you can. Oh
Oh
no,
no,
you can't because
no,
you have to
because you
clock
would
yourself
clock
as
yourself as
cost.
cost.
Yeah. It should be noted that this also digs through your deck because not only do you take one card from your clock as damage, you take another one
Yeah.
after you've had your fill. So I wouldn't run more than one or two of these because it's just so situational.
It's super
And a lot of
awkward
the
to put into your
times, yeah,
deck.
I like expect I'm gonna attack with this card and then not use the ability because I've missed the timing or there's nothing good for me to get. But it is a viable plussing engine, I guess. It's also best go, so you have to run some of it. All right.
Next up is his best girl again.
Yes, 104k regretful Yui. Uh, for every marker under this gets 1/5 and 1 level.
Famous for
So
being the Mark Asuna effect.
Mark Asana and the Mark of Rio from IMAS EP. When Heart Thumping Voice is placed at the climax zone, this gains 1/5 to the end of your opponent's next turn, so it serves as a pseudo marker. That's the 2k1 soul, by the way.
Yep.
And when the battle opponent of this is reversed, you get the top card as a marker.
So it's actually super easy relative to the other marker versions to get markers under her.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Because
it gets extra levels, gets more power. Your opponent won't be able to bomb this unless they're using very specific bombs. And anti-change is just terrible value for your opponent. They're paying 3 stock
to kill.
to kill you 1/0.
Yeah. So it's going to be very frustrating for a lot of decks if you can get it on field. So ideally what happens is like you hit levels 1 first, you kill a thing with the climax combo, so on their go it's already a 6k, 106k with back row. That's killable, but if let's say you splashed any card with transformation or housework, which you might have, right? Because the animal plant deck isn't as trait restrictive as the other decks are.
Mm-hmm.
Then you also get to run the 102k counter, and that could potentially
Yeah.
get you another marker.
Yeah, so I think that this is
Oh, we
I'm
also
really
have a BK Maniac clone.
yeah, we do. I'm really not sure that this deserves a rare rating, but it
No.
is a viable mid-game card. You're putting a lot of eggs in one basket, but it is doable. And
You will run into like a couple of decks that just have the perfect answer to this, and you'll get very sad if you build this deck, though.
well, I guess so. Like
Notably,
bounce,
Fate and Bounce.
the most important one is bounce because this deck will the To Love meta deck will be running 4 bounce. I'll be changing my LB to run 4 bounce, and yeah, you're gonna come across some stuff which makes this not the best play at the moment. It's still best go, so someone's got to run it. I'll be running it.
Next up is a fairly stock level 1 card these days.
This card's really boring. It's a 1045 Mikan Sleepy Time. For every other transformational housework, this gains 500 power, so it's a 6/5 if you've got a full field of transformation housework before supports.
And that's it.
Yawn.
This card is dumb.
It's the 1/0. It's Organizing Clothes Mikan. 1045. If all your characters are transformation or housework, it's a 5/5. And when the battle opponent is reversed, if you've got Taiyaki-shaped keyhole in the climax zone, search your library for one transformation or housework character and add it to your hand.
All right.
Then shuffle your deck. So this is basically the extraordinarily powerful combo from Girlfriend Beta, except you don't get extra stock.
It's more
Because
similar to the Nisekoi combo,
is it though?
I
This is
guess.
500 bigger.
It's 500 bigger, but the one from Girlfriends is like 2K
I,
bigger
no,
until we
well,
get
no,
to.
no, it's not. It's 6/5 as well until opponent's turn.
Oh, you're talking about that one. No, no, no. In that case, this is very, very much the same as that particular combo.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, the
So
Blue Friends
basically,
one. Yes.
the combo is with a bar, and it's also with the yellow stock soul that we talked about with the 1/1 assist Yami. So basically, when you play Taiyaki shaped key holder, you're probably playing the bar because the extra 1k is really important.
It's a
You
six
can also,
five.
yeah, you can assign 2k power to it with the 1/1 support if you have it on the field,
It's
which
an
you
eight
quite
five.
possibly do. Yeah, like that support's really good in this deck because of this. This becomes an 8/5, and
That's not even counting the power gain that you're getting from those back row cards.
8/5 is pretty good.
Nine
And
five
then
is
you
even
get,
better.
yeah, you get probably 9k at least, and that's pretty good. Even if it dies on the swing back, it's only like a 6k on the swing back, which is still all right.
It's actually like obnoxiously large considering the zero investment you put into the card.
I have to agree. Like this card is, I think a reason that I don't think the previous 6/5 Mikan was very good is because this card does everything that card does. All it is a little small on
It's a
defense.
thousand power smaller.
I don't think the 1,000 power matters too much when you're getting undeserved pluses,
This is also true. Also,
especially when another one of your lanes might be a 3/2 10k,
those pluses are super relevant because it does field the hand encores for your 3/2 in the event things go wrong.
more or less.
It also, just hand fixes and searches everything in your deck. So,
Pretty much. Yeah, I think that this is probably your safest main plan for the deck. You can be a baller and run the 1/0 change as your main plan, but I don't know, man. That seems pretty risky.
it's just got a ball out of control.
Yeah, yeah, more or less.
But
This
this is,
card is very good, though. It sets you up for the end game. It's free, like costless pluses that you can even use a stock soul for if you feel so inclined, and it's fairly big
yeah, it's
for what
it's
it
fairly
does.
big. This is like what I meant earlier when I was talking about like there is two distinct game plans at level one, and this is potentially your backup or your main game plan, which is
Hmm.
very funny when you consider it. Let's say your main game plan is cheating a level three in the play. Your backup game plan is to be a meta deck,
Hmm.
and
Which is pretty
that's
solid.
that's pretty silly. So
Yeah.
next up is the Three Stooges.
Oh, the Three Stooges. Not quite Three Stooges. It's more like one Stooge, her manservant, and then Glasses Girl. So this is Aya Fujisaki, 00500. All other green characters gain 500 power. Don't let that fool you. It's really not that useful.
Nope.
2 cost, tap 2 characters, choose a card in your clock, add it to hand, then clock yourself from deck.
Technically fairly costed, but still not very good.
It's not very good. You only play it because you need it to advance summon the Rin, which we'll
Three
talk about
Stooges.
later. Yeah, pretty much. The second card is Saki Tenjoin. She was the original, the original main girl in the Three Stooges act from the first series, but then she got relegated because the
She has
author
a
realized,
primary love interest.
yeah, there's that, but they also realized that they're missing a Yamato Nadeshiko archetype, so they had to use
That
the
was Haruna.
manservant girl. Yeah, the Katana girl archetype. So they
Oh,
had
there
to,
we go.
yeah, they had to add her in. So what Saki actually does is give all of your other Rin Kujo 500 power and the inability to be reversed by bombs.
Cool.
And it also has 1 cost, drop a card from hand. When it's placed from hand to stage, search your library for a green character and add it to hand. So yeah, this entire
It's a mono green Three Stooges deck that's built
yeah,
around a particular card.
which I think is a level 2 that you can advance summon.
Yeah,
It's not terrible, but
it's
I don't know
just
about it
not
being
worth it.
good. It's not a relevant trait. This is like the Ajo trait, the daughter trait that Gorilla has from Nisekoi.
Yeah,
And Aya is like she's Glasses trait, and Rin is I don't actually remember what trait she is, but it was a irrelevant one.
all the traits are
Probably like
irrelevant,
weapon.
so
Yeah.
it's more of a for funsies like deck that you can just build from extras. It's
Yeah.
not like
Mm,
it's not a focused deck really.
it's a bit awkward because I've never met anyone who likes any of these girls except for Rin, and that's purely because she's Sword Girl.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no.
that's basically it.
It's not bad. Like the flavor's fine. It's just I don't think it's very good
It's underwhelming. Next
anything.
up
Yeah.
is the level assist that you run in green if you run a level assist, which you honestly might not.
There's a level assist in the TD. It's yellow.
Which also changes, I believe. No, nope, that one
No,
does
no,
not
no.
change.
It's just a TD level assist. So this is preparing breakfast, Mikan. 215k level assist and change to the healing Mikan. So the 3 to 11 5 healer.
This is
This
a very
card's
interesting change cost.
this card's problem is that you discard two character cards with either transformation or housework as its cost, which sucks a lot. So firstly, climax phase changes, they're defensible, but I've never liked them because you've had to go usually -1 in order to use them, unless the level 3 cantrips, in which case it's a +0, but you usually go -1. The good thing was you could like discard a climax and filter, which is not
Okay,
something you can do with this card.
you can't filter. You have to ditch characters, which means that if things go wrong, you will have less attackers on the following turn. And
Hmm.
all you get out of it is a slightly oversized healer.
And you have to kill off your level support, which is just I don't like doing that. I think that I paid my one cost for my support, and I want my support to do what my support does. I
Yeah,
don't want to pay one cost and ditch two cards to get a level 3 healer. That just doesn't seem like a
a
look.
fair investment.
It will stay on the field, sure, but do you really want it to stay on the field? Your game plan is going to be field three Yamis and go ham.
Exactly. So it's this card is largely unnecessary in this deck.
I
So
think you play it because it is a contingency plan to get a heal if you desperately need one, and people aren't playing anti-heal as much anymore. Rewrite is not in a good spot right now with a 4 wind deck reigning atop the meta, and Little Busters no one has the cards for.
two souls.
So anti-heal, and no one's playing Hibiki and Kantai because they're all stuck on Hatsukaze or Akagi. So
Yep.
anti-heal is just not that common, like Vivid Red and Kill the Kill and
Gargantia.
Gargantia just don't really exist in the meta. Like they do, they're just not common. But yeah, the fact that this is a backup plan to heal is only a plus point, but I would treat it as a level assist that's probably mostly vanilla.
Yeah. Next up is a 2-1. Already off
Oh,
to a bad start.
it's your favorite archetype.
I absolutely hate this archetype.
Yep. So
This is a universally terrible archetype. I can't think of
so
a single card with this archetype that's like actually good.
it's a 2/1 7k Mekon. When another character with transformation or housework attacks, it gets 1k. So if it attacks last, it's 9k. But when it attacks, if the level of the character opposite is 3 or higher, it gains another 3k till the end of your opponent's next turn.
All right,
So it's a 10k if you attack a level
level 3.
3 at the very least. How
So
do you feel about that?
this is the most defensible level 3 anti card I can think of, in that it's at least going to be 12k in that one slot,
I
but it's still bad.
guess. But
But
the
it's still bad.
Accelerator and the Asuna are both like 12k as well, and they also have Soul.
It's
I mean,
still
Asuna
bad.
sucks because Stock Kick, but
It's still
I'm,
bad.
I'm not defending it. I think it sucks as well.
No Soul is like the biggest killer for me on this particular card. It's still bad, and this effect is always printed badly.
It's just not useful.
It's just not. It doesn't get you big enough, nor most of the time, to like actually reliably kill level threes. That early play.
Pretty much. Like,
So
I'm not a fan of this archetype, and neither should you. You
it's
shouldn't be
bad.
one either.
I know like a bunch of English meta people run around with that one Lightning Flash Austin in their deck. It's like that's just because they net decked it. Don't do it. It's bad.
Hmm.
Alrighty. Now that I've committed to how much I hate this particular card archetype, next up is a vanilla. I like this card better
Yay.
than the 2-1 that I just showed, by the way.
Well, this one is costless and in trade, so that's a plus for it.
There we go. Next up is a 1-0 vanilla 1500 counter. Not very
I
interesting.
think it's worth playing because you might not want to splash housework
Yes, if you're not
cards.
splashing Housework Transformation, this is the card you're going to be running instead, in
Because like the
particular for
yeah,
the 1-0 marker Asuna clone.
yeah, the housework transformation cards, the ones you want to splash are the ones that disable salvage, and Animal Plant deck wants salvage.
Yeah, it actually will be salvaging because it'll probably be running
Or if you're
gates.
playing the 1/0, then you'll be playing 2k1 soul and maybe stock soul or something, but
Yeah,
who knows?
depends.
It'll have to yeah, we'll figure it out.
Next up is a 1-0 vanilla.
Yay.
Something about best girl. Next up is a 1-1 vanilla hand encore.
It's a 1-1 French vanilla, so 1165 with clock encore,
Oh, clock encore. Cool.
which makes it better, but still not worth playing.
And finally, we get to a card with some text that doesn't just be
Yeah, well,
boring.
it has the text best girl on it. Cat ringtone Yui, 2175. When
Bad
this plays
start.
from hand to stage, gains 1-5. It's a bad start, but it's 9k,
Still
and
bad
like
start.
if you're running Yui, you're not running the meta deck.
Yep.
Sad to say. When this attacks, if Charming Voice is in the climax zone, this is the same scene as Heart Thumping Voice or whatever. They're really lazy. It's a stock soul. So when it attacks, if that stock soul is in the climax zone for the turn, this gains X power, where X is the number of other characters with animal or plant, so probably 2k power, and your opponent can't play backups from hand for the whole
Underwhelming.
turn. For the whole
Super
turn.
duper underwhelming.
I agree.
Backup only hits non-event counters. Yeah, that's all I really got to say. This
And
it's
the animal plant deck has a much better level two card to
I
play.
guess.
Multiple better level two
Yeah.
cards to play.
Okay. Next up is probably one of those level 2 cards, but I don't
Yep.
recall off the top of my head.
It's a 2-1. Oh no, this isn't
No,
one of the
never
better
mind.
level.
This one is
Well,
definitely
it is
not one of
better.
them.
I think it's better than the
It
one
is
above.
better, but
It's I think it's okay. It's not great. It's a 2-1 8k Yui. It's lewd, so yeah. During battles involving this, no player can use backups from hand, so you can still use events. When this is placed from hand to stage, if you have four more other animal or plant traits, you may put the top card of your library in stock. So it's effectively a
free.
2-0, but it comes at the cost of blind stock, and
You're
it
gonna want to pay
usually
that
dies
out.
pretty easy. Yeah, like it dies easy because this set doesn't have good power event counters, I don't think. The anti-damage doesn't count. And yeah, it's a 208k. What can you say?
Next up is a 2-1. It's the Rin Kujo.
It's the
2-1.
bin, yeah. 218k.
Saki Tenjoin. And
It'll,
if you have basically the other two of the Three Stooges group, it's a 1-1 8K. That's
yeah,
also plus
it's a
1,000 from your
one
back
one
row and then can't be bombed.
yeah, it's a 119k that can't be bombed. Which is I
Acceptable.
it couldn't be bombed anyway. I don't know why they added the other clause.
Well, what if you got a cost 1 bomb? There's like 2 sets that have that.
Okay. All right, sure.
Unless you're running it, don't do it. And
It doesn't stop
finally,
it from being, yeah. Kuroneko Modo, which is Black Cat mode. This card's awesome.
this card is actually very good.
It's a 1-0 event. Look at up to four cards from the top of your library. You'll probably be picking four, and search for a character with either animal or plant trait. Reveal it, add it to your hand, and discard the rest. Then choose one of your characters. That character gains 2k to the end of your opponent's next turn, aka pick the marker Yui, and then put this in clock. So yeah, you have to put it in clock, but you get to mill four, and you get 2k power on something, probably the marker Yui that your opponent's going to have to run into.
And you get
Because
a
of that.
semblance of
Yeah,
card selection.
like it's pretty decent. This is meant to run with the marker Yui, pretty obviously.
Yeah, with
And I
this and the
think
climax combo alone, like assuming you have no markers, it's a 7-5 on opponent's turn. Like,
which is pretty acceptable. Not to mention that they have to ram into you unless they want to side a level two. So yeah, this is the mill. Like the other good part is it's part of the mill theme that Yui has going. So it has a card that mills four. It has a card that mills up to five. Pretty solid. I'd run three.
yeah, if you're running the Yui deck, you're gonna run a lot of this card just because it's good. It's card selection. It's very reminiscent of a very good card from IMAS called BK Maniac.
Yeah, it's
Card
cool.
selection's a lot more limited.
I think it's more like a Chihaya's camera with upside, or a Junketsu with
Yeah,
upside.
Trinketsu with upside. It's gonna be closer to those, but it is fairly reminiscent of the BK Maniac effect in that it also gives power in addition to card selection.
Mm-hmm.
So good card.
Yes, I think so.
And that takes us to the end of Green. This video was very long at
Well,
120 minutes, or sorry, 1 hour and 20 minutes.
thanks for sticking with us.
If you have, if you didn't stick with us, which means you're not hearing what I'm saying right now, anyways. That's why we have a summary video this time that will be up on the
Link in
channel as
yeah,
well.
we'll link it up somewhere. All right,
So
so we'll see you in the next video.